Hi, welcome back. Kitty and I don't know if you can see her on my lap here, are here to talk about organized chaos. When I asked on my broadcast channel what folks wanted to see me cover on YouTube, aka gab about in a longer format, one of the responses was how I keep all of my creativity supplies organized in my home. And I am a self-proclaimed chaotic creative, which you may or may not know. That's the title of my podcast that I co-host with my friend Lauren. We talk about embracing the chaos that comes from living a creative life. And so that creative chaos also flows over into how I organize my home. I'm definitely organized. It may not look like it, but I know where everything is, and that is how my brain works. So I love to buy things that I can store other things inside that are still aesthetically pleasing. And my number one favorite storage thing is these hay crates. Hay is the company that it used to be called, Hay. And I think it is perhaps under the umbrella company Design Within Reach now. I'll link these crates in the show notes in the video description. I'm mixing up all of my platforms that I gab on now. But they come in 3 different sizes and a ton of colors. This is the medium size. They're stackable, they're collapsible. Let me grab this one. They collapse down. So this could potentially be a lid for the other ones. This is the medium size, like I said. The small is half of the medium, so it can actually stack. This is a small one on top of a medium one. It can stack horizontally on top of that. And I love these. I have them all over this Ikea shelf that I got secondhand. Behind me, I have tools in them, art supplies, in the basement, which I will go down to in a second and show you how I kind of organize like my actual fabrics and stuff like that. I use one of the small hay crates for each of my sewing projects. So how I work with creative projects is like I start one when I have the ambition to do so and the excitement about the project. And then I often bounce around, which maybe is not the best for completing projects, but it is how I like to work. And how I approach creativity is not for the final product, it's for the process. Like, what am I excited about? What can I sort of like find myself getting into flow state about? What am I daydreaming about? That's what I follow the fun, if you will. Because that's why I'm doing creative projects, is to kind of experience that joy and excitement about making something, and not necessarily like building a body of work like I would if I had like a studio art practice. I'm not selling any of my pieces. If I were selling my pieces, then I would need to be a little bit more regimented about actually finishing things. But when I start a project, especially a quilt project, which is what is one of my main creative outlets right now, I will gather the fabric, figure out my colorways. Oftentimes I cut a lot of pieces all at once. So having all of that fabric and those cut pieces in one of those small crates is really helpful for when I do want to revisit it, or even just like laying them all out and figuring out like, okay, which one do I want to work on? Like, which colorway is drawing me in right now? So those are really helpful for a lot of things. Also, when I have purchased all of these, this really sounds like a sponsored post about the hay crates, but I just really love them. And I think several other companies make something similar, but these are quite sturdy. So I back them. They're not that expensive. They often do 20% off sale. And I think the small ones are like $7. The medium might be like 10 to 12. I've never purchased a large one. The medium has been perfect for what I need. And when I used to do a product-based business, when I had my stationery shop, and I did a lot of like the craft and art fair circuit, they were so perfect for like stacking up my product and carrying all at once. And then I would flip them over when I took the product out and use them as display options. So these are really versatile crates and I love them. And they come in colors that I like, which is important to me. I have finally accepted about myself that like I need something to be aesthetically pleasing in order for me to want to use it. And I used to be embarrassed about that because it's like, oh, your storage crates don't have to be purple, but actually, yes, they do. So that is kind of the first thing I wanted to say, is like I find ways to store my things that are aesthetically pleasing and still act as storage. Let's see. I love to collect containers. I love vessels inside of vessels inside of vessels. So like this is a tin that had marshmallow chocolates in it that I got in Paris, and I obviously saved it, and now it has some colored pencils in it. So finding stuff like this is really fun for me because one, I get to remember this trip and this souvenir, and also it acts as a perfect vessel. I also make in ceramics class or thrift little cups, little mugs. There's so many cool mugs that exist in the world, and as someone who recently discovered that they don't like drawing, if I'm gonna segue for a second and take us on a side quest per usual, I just did the Creative Play for May challenge where I sent out an email every week that encouraged you to do a 30-day challenge for your creative practice. Mine was going to be self-portrait drawing because I'm always drawn to self-portraits when I'm looking at art, watching artists. I think that it's so cool, and I have this idea in my head of me being an illustrator, I guess, who is drawing self-portraits and like creates a body of work. And I had this whole goal of like, okay, I'll have 30 self-portraits at the end of this challenge. I'll increase my skill. I'm sure I'll learn something about myself. And boy, did I ever, because it took everything in my power to sit down and draw one. And then I gave up after the first week because, and this is valuable information, I don't like drawing. And just because you can do something doesn't mean that you have to. I am a generally pretty, let's say, competent artist. I can learn how to do things and I can like pick things up pretty quickly. I'm not saying that I have the illustration skills of a professional, but like I can do a pretty decent drawing. I just don't like it. And I learned that about myself in doing the creative challenge. But I do have a lot of drawing supplies, especially because I used to do hand lettering and do wedding invites and stuff like that. So anyway, thrifted cups and mugs or making them in ceramics is one of the storage methods that I use. Okay, next, this isn't really a storage technique, more of like a display strategy. I love to collect old reference books, especially around the creative practices that I enjoy. And I like to think of these things as tools, of course, that I can reference because it's a reference book, but also as collections. Like that is something that's really important to me is like maintaining collections of things. And that's how I treat a lot of my objects. And that helps me because if I think about displaying my collections, it helps me to feel better about like, wow, I don't have floor-to-ceiling bookshelves built in that could house all of my books in one place. That's okay. I mean, that would be displaying my collection, but I don't have that. So what I do a lot of the time is just do stacks of books, anchored by other stacks of books. Yeah, I just like love to have stuff on display. This card rack and this one are from my days of owning a stationery store and again doing the craft fair scene. But they're great for kind of zine display or art display if you wanted them, and I'll link those in the description as well. So I think it's time to get up, much to, I'm sure, the dismay of Miss Kitty on my lap here. But I want to show you a couple other things, ways that I store things, and we'll end up in the basement with all my fabric storage, which is chaotic. Okay, a couple more storage options, a couple of vintage filing cabinets. This one I got secondhand. This other one, the taller one, was my grandpa's. He had tools in it in his garage, and when he passed away, I took it. Okay, like I said, collections. These are Ikea picture frame shelves, just a bunch of them. And this is where I store all of my vintage beer cans, again, my grandpa's collection. This could be for anything though, like this could be an entire shelf with cups full of pens or markers or pencils. You know, like thinking creatively about putting your art supplies on display helps, one, you keep it organized, two, showing off your collection because it is a collection even though it's tools, and three, getting creative with your use of space. Like imagine if this was just an art supply wall, that would be cool. But instead I have a million beer cans. I want to be someone who can afford beautiful custom woodwork stuff in my home. I can't. So this is Ikea. These are 4 Ikea IVAR cabinets that I painted purple, but they're perfect for my organization. And I hate painting, so I didn't even paint the inside. But more hay crates. That's where I keep all my Bagoo pouches. This is also where I keep my empties from like my skincare, like the glass jars, because I think part of being a chaotic, creative, maybe craft supply hoarder is like seeing a good jar and being like, I can't get rid of that. Like, I haven't used this brand of skincare in probably 4 years, but look at this beautiful iridescent jar. I can't get rid of it. So that's how I store some stuff. I also really love when you get a good box. This is maybe giving you a little bit too much insight into my neuroses. But like an iPhone box, for example, or this is a candle from a local company, Detroit Rose, sturdy box. I just flip these upside down and use them as storage. This is also what I use like in my junk drawer to keep things organized because, like I mentioned, organized chaos. Wow, that smells so good. Tobacco and Bay from Detroit Rose. I'll link that too. So yeah, I kind of keep, it's a little bit sloppy, but like I know where things are. And the other ones, this one I have my nail polish rack. I have all of my table linens, like tablecloths, linen napkins, and I have a basket that has a bunch of taper candles in it because I love to have taper candles on display, but also I use them when I have like a dinner party or something like that. This is my great-grandmother's bread box. So that just has more vessels in there. Love a vessel. I got this brass bowl at a garage sale. That's where my sunglasses go. I have this little tray that kind of keeps some stuff that I don't necessarily know what to do with, but I also put like my lip gloss and stuff there. So this is kind of like a pit stop, grab the stuff that I need for my bag. More books on display, more hay crates, more vessels. I love a souvenir from a trip. And that jar up there, I bought a jar of honey when I was in Paris the first time, and I only recently just finished the honey. And then I shoved it full of colorful pom-poms, and now it's on display. So I understand that not everyone is like a little knick-knack, tchotchke collection person, but I think folks could still benefit from like this discussion of the vessels, the hay crates. Okay, yeah, I just think hidden chaos is my approach. So let's continue on. I also love to read a lot, which you may know from a video a couple weeks ago where I talked about the books that I read and the genres that I like to read and how I choose my next books. I also love to collect books. I don't think I talked about comic books actually in that video, but I do like to read graphic novels and comics. So yeah, another way to display that. I have these cheapy shelves from my local hardware store. It's just like two metal tracks, and then these hooks clip in, and then this is like a composite board that actually you can probably see that some of them are starting to bow. Every once in a while when I actually take time to dust I take all the books off and like scrub them, I just flip the board over and have it bow the other way. Because again, I would love to be someone who could afford to have someone build a custom built-in bookshelf, but I work with what I got, and it's the Ace Hardware track shelving system. But you can get these in multiple sizes, and they work well for all of my books and my ephemera. Different things like things I've gotten on vacation or gifts from pals or additional vessels, just rocks. I love the collection. So yeah, the bookshelves are obviously a good one. Okay, you are seeing this as it exists in real life. I have not cleaned this area at all, and that's okay. It's real life, baby. So I have more Ikea. These three, I think these are called the Alex unit. It comes in tall or short, but this is what I keep most of my art supplies in. I would love to get another one for right here and move this chain stitch machine over there. So, wow, there's just a lot of random shit in that one. This one has old inks and watercolor and hole punches, pipe cleaners and glue sticks, all of my quilts binding, some zippers, beading supplies. On the last podcast episode, Lauren and I talked about kind of when to let go, like releasing some of the creative clutter. And I took a seed bead earring making class probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And yeah, I still have all the stuff. I also have a bunch of embroidery floss. Those are two things that take patience and sort of more attention to detail than I'm willing to give on a creative project, but still got the stuff. Okay, and then most of these are full of fabric. I mostly get my fabric from the discount fabric store, or I thrift sheets. So that's what those are from. Yeah, it's truly mostly fabric. Some stuff for the chain stitch machine. Some squares I've cut, batting and tissue paper, which I use to make patterns. Yeah, so those are really helpful. And they're not cheap, and they are so annoying to assemble, but they're really lovely. Here are my hay crates again that I mentioned, that each kind of have their own project in them, which is great for organizing the projects. Plus they all stack on top of each other and it feels nice and organized. Let's go over there. Okay, this is the most embarrassing part, but also I'm not that embarrassed because this is how my brain works, and this is why I moved my sewing area to the basement. Because when I'm working on a project, I want to be able to spread out and then stop without having to clean up. And I am so lucky that I have a basement that I can do that in. I used to have all of my sewing stuff up in my office, and I found that when I would leave everything as is and then try to do my job during the week, like when all of that mess was there, it was really hard to focus. So I'm really grateful that I moved everything down here. I have a desk that I got at a garage sale for $25, like a really big wooden cool desk. So that has all of my sort of like sewing components in it. This is just a cube shelf from Target that is falling apart. But I've got different fabrics folded in here. This is my pile of to mend. Oh, I've been looking for this. Yes, this is the pile of things that I can tackle the mending myself. If things are more complicated than that, I go to a tailor. So a little bit of everything. I just posted an Instagram video where I crop a thrifted button up because that's really easy, just slicing it off and hi, and hemming it. Kitty's very active in this video today. It's nothing you want. It's just a hair clip. Okay, and then I have another Ikea shelf, just a metal one with more fabric, a couple of baskets. I keep all my scraps of clothes that I alter, and I make scrunchies or use it in other sort of ad-lib projects. Yeah, I love a storage unit. I love a crate. I love Ikea. I hope that was helpful. This was truly a chaotic video per usual. Hey, what do you need? Between me talking to the cat, getting distracted, going all over the house, talking about storage units, there's a bird trying to get into the basement window right now. This video has it all. What more could you ask for? Have a great weekend.